Hey, the world's full of fantastic music. Each month, we explore an album of significance, its roots, how it makes us feel, and then banter about its influence and staying power. Join us on our journey as we dissect, discuss, and discover some of the world's greatest albums on The Sonic Collective.
Hello, everyone out there listening. It's your friends at The Sonic Collective. I'm Scott G., joined as always by my fellow members Alan, Darren, and Scott C. This month, Scott and Darren also had an opportunity to record an interview with a musical icon from Canada. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it, Scott?
Yeah, thank you, Scott G. We were delighted to have a chat with Sam Roberts. We got 30 minutes with him, and that was super cool of him to give us our time. And we talked about a variety of stuff, from how he feels about having been recording professionally for at least 18 years to what it's been like being a parent in COVID times, some of his musical guilty pleasures, and also all about the new album and kind of the deeper meaning behind it. And I think we had a really kind of rich conversation. I've listened to it many times, and it's not just the standard kind of music questions. I think he shared really openly with us, and it was a lot of fun, and I think listeners will really enjoy listening to it. So just go to our site, thesonic.collective.com, and you'll find it at Chat with Sam Roberts. So thanks in advance for listening, everyone.
Yeah, and check out the album too. I gave it a couple listens, and there's a lot of fresh sound from him on there, but still, like that signature Sam Roberts guitar on there as well too. So really enjoyed that. So yeah, into the pick. My pick for November 2020 wraps up the double album themed round, and I decided to go way out of my comfort zone with M83's 2011 album Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. I'm no stranger to synth pop, but I usually don't stray too far from the 80s or 90s, where it's likely more pop than synth in a lot of cases. But M83's ambient sound was a whole new beast for me. But as usual, I'm going to leave my thoughts there until I hear what the rest of the collective thought of it too. So I'm going to throw it over to Darren to see what his experience this month was like.
Yeah, sure. I'll start it off. I have to say, when you picked this band, M83, I actually had no idea who that was. You had mentioned it was somebody obscure from France, potentially, maybe not obscure, but different. And it's good because we haven't really explored much, I guess, pop or synth pop, especially. I found it interesting. Right away when I started listening to him, I realized Midnight City, and everybody on here will have recognized that song. It was a big hit in 2011, 2012, very popular, a ton of radio play on the pop charts and kind of synth and I think EDM charts as well. But I didn't realize that it was part of this big album. So I got to admit, when I listened to it the first time, I was a bit high the first time, and I actually was like, yeah, I really like this. I only got like 4 or 5 songs through, and it got through Midnight City, and I was like, this is the best. And I think I texted you, Scott, I'm like, yeah, this is great. And then I got to admit, I listened to it again, and then I was like, I don't get this. I don't know if I like it. And then I listened to it again, and I wasn't sure. And it was like a roller coaster for me a little bit. But I got to say, it grew on me. And I'd leave it a few days, and I go back and listen again, and it kept growing on me. I think, I always allude to that, I grew up in the 80s, being the older guy, but I like it. It does have kind of an 80s vibe. That sound is actually kind of coming back now. You hear it in a lot of pop songs and things like that. Mind you, this is going back to 2011 when this album came out. But anyway, I thought it was very interesting because I think when I realized, yes, this is an experience. It's not even just a double album. It's really like he explains it's about kind of being in a dreamlike state and flowing through one dream to the next. And it's this whole immersive experience. And his background, and sorry, Anthony Gonzalez is kind of the creative genius behind this. There's obviously more members in the band, but and his genius is he just kind of did a lot of soundtracks and things like that when he was getting into the industry. So he had that kind of vibe. So I think he was already maybe a bit of a natural storyteller. And that's what this album is. Like, you can literally just sit back and visualize an entire movie or kind of make one up in your head. So I found that really interesting. So it took me a while to get there, but I actually ended up kind of really liking it. It's definitely, it's a very visual kind of ambient synth pop, shoegaze, it gets kind of called sometimes. Sometimes these crowds, especially the EDM and stuff, and I'm going to say younger, I just turned 51 a few days ago, but younger crowds and people will probably have been more knowledgeable about M83, but I really didn't know that much. I read a cool article on Pitchfork, maybe some of you did as well, saying that apparently he was more of a studio because, big into production and soundtracks, but he started to get popular after his first few albums and ended up touring with Depeche Mode and other bands. And apparently they taught him a lot about stage presence and how to kind of, really cast your vocals and be a performer. And apparently that happened right up before this album. So that gave him a lot of courage to sing. And in this album, he's really noted for improving his vocal ability a lot. So I found that really interesting. Anyway, I'm kind of rambling on a bit. We can come back to me and I'll hit a few more points. But what about Alan? What do you think, man? Hey, you're a bit younger. Maybe you knew this more than I did.
Yeah. I feel like you kind of stole my show notes here because you said everything that I was about to say.
Sorry.
I knew M83 because Midnight City was just all over the airwaves at the time, and I still catch it on the radio sometimes. It was also featured in Grand Theft Auto 5 soundtrack, and I played that game so much, I think I wore a hole through the CD. Every time I listened to Midnight City, my neighbors also listened to Midnight City. Like, it's weird. It's one of my favorite songs in the last, I don't know, decade, and yet I never really bothered to dive in too deep to M83's discography. So Scott, thank you for picking this because it kind of forced me to do that with a critical lens. I remember when Midnight City came out, I loved that song. And I went and actually listened through this album. I mean, I did it once and never returned. So it didn't really resonate with me at the time. But, to Darren's point, the whole aesthetic of, I don't even, synthwave, retro futurism, whatever you want to call it, that's kind of making a comeback in the popular lexicon. And so listening to it again and listening to the album as a cohesive piece, kind of like Darren said, you close your eyes and you can actually visualize what perhaps Anthony Gonzalez was kind of thinking about when he recorded this album. I mean, I close my eyes and I think of the art of James White, aka Signal Noise, who's a fantastic artist. You should check him out. But it's just this like 80s inspired, like neon supercars, like Lamborghinis flying down the freeway. I close my eyes and I picture that when I listen to this entire album. It was really weird because, like you said, Darren, sometimes you listen to it and you were for sure, you were on board with the vision and it was awesome. And then other times it's just kind of not right. And I think you can attribute that sonically to the fact that the songs kind of vary a lot. Like there was one song where he had like a little kid reciting a story, which was kind of weird.
I like that, man.
Yeah. I mean, it was interesting. Not all the songs sounded like Midnight City though. And that was kind of what I anchored my expectations to. So, yeah, I mean, it was really interesting. At one point I tried using this as a sleep aid to help me fall asleep and it worked. Yeah. And other times I would be listening to it while I was working on like a really difficult project at work and just kind of cruising away, bobbing my head to it. I just love, he's like painting with layers of sound and the reverb is so high. And I gotta say, Midnight City has one of the best saxophones in music history next to Baker Street and Careless Whisper. I'll go on record as saying that.
I love it. That's a good point. They actually brought that up, that it was a weird call, but that it fits so well in that song, and it's just noted as a real masterful piece of saxophone.
For sure, it was brilliant. I think that track is still going to be the standout album, or the track. It's still going to be the standout track of the album. There were only a couple other songs that really hit me in a way that I think would make it to my permanent playlist, but I'm really glad we listened to this album because it was just such a fascinating exploration and it took me on a ride. Yeah, anyway, I'm rambling and I could ramble for a month if you let me. Scott Coates, what did you think?
It's interesting that you said you pictured Lamborghinis and supercars and stuff because I envisioned Ryan Gosling driving a car with fluorescent lights at nighttime all around. And I'd never heard Midnight City. I'd never knowingly heard anything by M83.
Oh, really?
No, before this, but part of me thinks now, having read up on it a bit, that the reason I picture Ryan Gosling in a car is maybe it was in a movie. And what was also interesting is the whole time I listened to it, the first few times, I could imagine every song being in a movie or in a TV show, or it was atmospheric. I'm like, man, this is just like built for being a movie soundtrack. And then I read online that he said he wanted to write an album that sounded like it could be a movie soundtrack, right? For an imaginary movie with different ambiances, different atmospheres, different tempos and orchestrations. And I was like, okay, now I feel smart about music, because that's actually what I thought when listening to it. And it turns out that was the whole point. I thought that was really neat. I like the intro. It's what an intro should be. It kind of set up the whole experience ahead. And I didn't really listen to this album with singles in mind. Like you guys keep saying Midnight City. I can't actually even think of that song, but I liked the overall feeling and mood and ambiance of the experience and the package. And it is, to me, a classic example of a whole album, right? That it needs to be listened to in its entirety. Most of the stuff I really liked. Whenever I heard Reunion, it reminded me of something Simple Minds would do. I just kept hearing Simple Minds doing that one. Claudia Lewis went a bit far. It seemed like a song from an 80s John Hughes movie a bit. Another Wave from You kind of really grabbed me, highly emotional, and it seemed like a track at the end of a sci-fi movie, like maybe something at the end of Blade Runner. Like, I just kept imagining.
Yeah, Blade Runner's a good
that entire aesthetic is like encapsulated in this album.
So I really like ambient music and pop and rock, and to me this brought all those things together really well. You guys mentioned the 80s, and I feel like a lot of 80s is coming back in fashion. I would be curious if this album was somehow able to gain some traction. I think it could be really hot again. Yeah, and now I'm interested in hearing their other stuff, particularly Digital Shades Volume 1, which apparently is just an ambient album, and I really like ambient music. So overall, yeah, I mean, there was one or two tracks I maybe didn't like that much, but yeah, it really evoked like atmosphere and emotions and feelings, and yeah, I really thought it was an interesting, cool album, and neat to be exposed to a band I'd never even heard of. So good pick there, Mr. Gregory. How about you?
Thanks. Yeah, I really liked it. Before I get deep into it, though, I want to add to Alan's list of saxophone music. I Still Believe from the Lost Boys soundtrack is probably tied for the buffest saxophone player and coolest saxophone riff at the same time. Careless Whisper is really good, too.
I'll take Coltrane, but if we're sticking to pop.
I ruined Midnight City for myself listening to this because I recognized the track, but then when that sound was going off, at one point I just went, cock-a-doodle, what? And then all I could hear for like the next month was, cock-a-doodle, what? Cock-a-doodle, what?
Wow, I never thought of that.
So now if you hear it again, all you're going to hear is cock-a-doodle, what? But yeah, the intro was like 5.5 minutes, which is a little bit of a departure from a lot of albums where they just try and tease you in and then get into the main stuff, right? He goes hard from the start. It's the second longest track on the entire album, right? And I really like Splendor. It wasn't as synth heavy. The piano comes out a lot on it, and it does have that soundtrack vibe to it that I really like that running through this as well too, right? And I thought Blade Runner on some of those, especially like the outro, the last track, and that, especially the second Blade Runner movie, where some of it gets super intense. And I think those were the tracks that I didn't like as much on this. Is I'll go and read the Wikipedia and I'll read the first part, but I'll never read the reviews. But when I got down to the critics' receptions, one of them talked about how there's a lot of crescendos all throughout this album. And that was definitely something I already had noted, that it just felt like a lot of these songs were like the last 20, 30 seconds of other songs where it's just intense crescendo. Only he does it for like 3-4 minutes. I'm like, this is so heavy, right? Like I felt it was hitting me with this energy for so long. Some of the slower tracks I really liked. I could listen to more often. Like Wait was really great. I really liked that he lets vocals play a more prominent part. It was the main instrument in that song. As you said, Darren, he was really experimenting with his vocals on this one. He pulled them forward, and I really like that when he's singing instead of doing like the shouty, just kind of snippets kind of thing. I think he's got a really good voice, and he should really bring it out a lot more often. The album, or the song that Alan mentioned, Raconte-moi une histoire, the one with the little girl.
Yeah,
that one.
Yeah, they're just trying to find the magical frog and get
I
super
know,
big.
right?
They're gonna lick the frog or something. I think that's totally.
I love that playful beat.
Stone
I really
Kids.
love frogs. Steven really liked my 2-year-old son really liked that song as well too.
Mhm.
But he does not know it's about world peace through psychedelic frog touching. So, but it was a bit of a departure from the songs around it, and I liked it. It didn't seem out of place so much as a shift of direction, right, on the album. It still very much had a feel of him in there and playful. Overall, I really liked the album. I think he had 3 tracks on there. So Fountains, When Will You Come Home, and Train to Pluton. I really like those because they were like about a minute and a half each. And he was just experimenting with the sound and getting like just like an emotion out. But I could have seen the temptation to make them 3 or 4 minutes and keep trying to push through. But he got the emotion out and done. Right. And so I really enjoyed that part as well too. It's just he's so masterful. There's no excess fat on any of these tracks. They're just his production value on this album is through the roof. I love it so much. The last thing I'd like to say is just really about the soundtrack side of things. He talks about movies. There was on Spotify, if you're listening to it there, if you scroll down, there's actually him commenting on the albums itself too. And he does mention that it is heavily influenced by soundtracks and movies. And 2 of them he called out by name was Days of Heaven by Terrence Malick and Aguirre by Werner Herzog. I've seen Days of Heaven and I could see that connection, but I haven't seen the Herzog movie, which I won't try and pronounce a second time. So now I'm really tempted to go check that out as well too, and just try and feel that influence along with all of the like 80s synths that you had mentioned before as well too. So I did really enjoy this album. It was super intense at points, but I think there's a couple tracks off of here that'll definitely survive into my playlists, and I think I'll dust the album off and give it a whole listen at least a couple times a year.
Scott Coates, you mentioned the movie Drive. I want to tie up a loose end from my review.
Okay.
The artist that I name dropped, James White, did a really sick poster of the movie Drive with Ryan Gosling, and he did it in this really cool synthwave style. So it kind of ties back.
Huh.
And that was
you guys
full circle
into the mainstream. So James White, everyone, check him out.
Cool.
We should be the Sonic Connective. We're connected.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, we can jump into the scores. I'll start as I started the review. I guess a few more things I just want to add to just before I dive into that. You're right. I think conceptually it was all about a movie soundtrack in this kind of dream state. I almost took those interludes like Recount Histoire or the Train to Pluto as like clear moments in the dream, like you'd visualize that, and then the songs were actually like kind of the in between. And yeah, anyway, it was amazing. I don't think you can think of this as a pop album or even a synth album. You think of it as an experience, and it's a cool thing to put on. And yes, you can extract certain songs and play them, but yeah, amazing. A quick shout out because a big influence of the album was Justin Meldal Johnson, and he was kind of a famous bass player. He played with Nine Inch Nails, Beck, and he came in and really helped and was a musician on this. And he played the slap of the bass on the Claudia Lewis and stuff, but I guess added a lot of kind of like those pounding like bass and drums and some of the experience. And I guess a lot of the layers came through him being a collaborator with Anthony Gonzalez. So I think definitely got a shout out to that album. Yeah, again, and I just because this is the wrap up to our double albums round, and I want to say that this is a really good example because we did Bob Dylan Blonde on Blonde that hey none of you really loved, and it was really just a collection of songs. I don't know if there was necessarily a concept there, so it's interesting to finish as something like this where it's almost this new era when there really isn't double albums anymore, for somebody to do that and put experience together. I think and this group probably really appreciates it, and I think maybe listeners should, is like, don't forget albums were meant to be in an order, meant to tell a story, meant to say things. So excellent pick. But anyway, I will jump into my scores. And so for influence for me, I mean, this music is newer to me. I was like electronic, a little bit in hip hop, but I'm going to say 3.5 for me, just to though I think the album's highly influential. Would I recommend it? I'm going to give it a 4. I mean, I think it's an amazing album. I think if you're into this style and you can appreciate kind of atmospheric, electronic, and conceptual albums, and it's a little poppy or 80s synth, yes, go for it. Overall, I'm going to come in at a 4 as well. And just fantastic pick. Really recommend the band. Great album.
I'm with you. I think Overall, I'm going to give it a 4.5. I actually really did enjoy it for the reason that it took me on a weird ride that I did not expect, did not anticipate. I would also recommend it strongly to anyone who is into that whole synthwave, neo-futurism kind of aesthetic. I think sonically this album holds up. So I'm going to recommend that at a 4.5. And it influenced my taste in that I'm going to go and check out what other stuff M83 has recorded. So a solid 4.5. Let's just give it 4.5 all around.
I'm close to you. Recommend. I'll give it a 4. I think it just touches on so many interesting categories. The double album, as Darren talked about, it's kind of ambient. It's kind of 80s pop. It's got some rock. It's atmospheric. I think it's a really interesting journey. So I'll give it a 4. Influence, I'll give it a 3.5. Mainly like you, Alan, I'm going to go back and now listen to a lot of M83's other music and maybe try and find some other bands that have kind of ambient atmospheric stuff. And overall, I'll give it a 4. Yeah, I thought it was really good. I quite enjoyed it. It was a solid experience. How about you, Mr. Gregory?
Yeah, I think you and I are very closely aligned in that. Did it really influence me? I mean, I had a real strong like for 80s synth and pop, and even I stuck with Depeche Mode into the 90s, but I didn't really listen to a lot of synth in the 2010. So I feel like I got the early influences on this album, but there was obviously later stuff that was being interwoven in there as well too, and I probably missed a lot of that, and it didn't really drag me in to go hunt down those references, right? So would I recommend it though? Definitely a 4.5 on that. I think standing on its own feet, this is an amazing album. It's well crafted. It's, if you go in and read all the stuff he talks about how he's building it, and each of the two sides have sister and brother tracks on the other ones and how they sequence in each other. It's just a masterpiece of production and creativity. So I would definitely give it a 4.5 for a recommend, and overall I'll split the baby on that and give it a 4 on it. But I definitely think that's a 4 plus.
What was your influence number?
3.5. Mostly weighted on the 80s side of things, 90s side of things, but it didn't really draw me into to look for anything after basically Depeche Mode went to hell. So
yeah, real great way to end these double albums. It's been a fun journey of highs and lows, and yeah, to get exposed to a band I'd never heard of is good on a personal note. Mm-hmm. So what did we decide? We're going to do a themed round again, and Darren, you're up. So what is the theme round we're coming into?
Yeah, the theme round, we talked about it kind of before we recorded our last episode, and we decided between the four of us, probably our weakest category or genre across all of us seemingly was country. So we're well, why not push it? Yeah, so we said, well, let's push ourselves a bit. Yes, hey, I respect Johnny Cash, and I picked him for one of our live album rounds, but I think that's the only actual country music album we've ever had. And I mean, Johnny Cash is just Johnny Cash, and then there's country. But yeah, anyway, yeah, so we've decided to settle on country. And one thing before we move on, I just want to point out two things. Listening to M83 on Seth Rogen's Houseplant Indica was really nice. That's a great cannabis. If you're in Canada and you want a good legal recommendation, yeah, his stuff is good. Thank you, Seth Rogen. And also support local music. I know hopefully some of our listeners in Calgary, but you can buy it anywhere. There's a local synth pop band, and it's one guy that you called Deep Covers. He just released a new album, called Dark World. And if you like kind of 80s synth pop and similar music to this, check him out. Yeah, so Deep Covers. But yeah, so we're into a country music round, and I'm going to start the pick. I have my pick already. I'm not going to announce it here on this episode, so tune in. There'll be another short episode that I will announce our country music round and also announce who I picked. So Scott, why don't you take us out? And thanks for picking a great album.
Sweet. Well, thanks everyone. I was a little nervous going into this one, but I'm really glad that everyone enjoyed it. So once again, that was M83's 2011 album, Hurry Up, We're Dreaming. Thanks again, all of you, for tuning in. Check us out every month, and check us out on thesonic-collective.com for Darren's pick for this new country round. Peace out.
Thanks for listening and exploring with us. We'll be back real soon with another pick and critique of albums that matter here at The Sonic Collective.